Well, dear audience, I am your host, Get Good Fox. It's time for some more MechWarrior 5. I've decided to pull out a new mech chassis out rather than do another hero variant. Introducing the... okay, I can't go into my third-person camera until I clear the dropship, but yeah, this is the Thunderbolt. This is not the stock, it is a stock Thunderbolt, and what I meant to say, it's not the original kind of Thunderbolt. Like, this is a variant of it. I do try to use the originals when possible, but, you know, this is just one of those cases where it just wasn't possible. Anyways, this is a 65-ton mech, and it is well known as being just kind of like just a really heavy-duty, beat-you-down kind of battle mech. It's a very no-nonsense mech, which is why a lot of people like it. You know, it's not fancy, but let me tell you, it gets the job done as long as your job is to basically come at the enemy and smash-inate them and survive with like a decent amount of armor on the mech. So this mech has a lot of armor, runs at the kind of typical 64 kilometers. Once again, that is about what you would expect for a heavy mech, so very, very average in that regard. Weaponry includes, wow, there's a lot of enemies here. Like, destroy this little urban mech, like, stop ignoring. Anyways, weapons include the PPC, that is the primary weapon. We also have triple medium lasers. We've got an SRM-6, and if I can get a little closer, we do have ourselves like a little flamer that managed to sneak into the action. Just a single one, though. An interesting kind of utility weapon for the design. Overall, I really do like I think the Thunderbolt is a pretty good mech. It's especially good in the BattleTech remake, where you just need kind of like just a no-nonsense mech that it just works.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
Like, that's the modus operandi. It's reliable, it just works. Alrighty, so apparently all of the assassination targets are apparently here. I'm gonna lead the attack because that's what this mech does. This mech it has maximum armor for good reason. It is intended to, it's basically like the world's smallest assault mech in that kind of, that's the kind of mentality. Wow, there is a lot of stuff here. Looks like I better, whenever there's a whole lot of things, I'm going to assign them to attack one of the mechs, and I'm just going to work on thinning some of these enemies out. The trees are really interfering with me right now. They keep causing my battle mech's arms to move around. Look at all these enemies. Holy crap. This thing needs to go. There we go. We're thinning them out. I'm just going to go all of everything on this guy. We just need to do everything. This mech is, one thing that's pretty nice about this mech is that the heat is not too bad. Although there are a lot of energy weapons on the mech, it does carry a solid number of heat sinks, meaning it's able to keep up with the heat problems pretty well. Looks like I took some rear damage, not surprising as I did turn my back to the enemy a time or two. Typically not a good idea, but I am going to go ahead and just sweep around and take out some of these enemies from the back. That's because it's going to get some of the heat off of me. And, the other mechs in our lance are fairly hardy. They can handle a little bit of it. And now I'm going to be able to kind of come back in here and start doing some damage. Hello, Mr. Hunchback. I am here to do the ambusheroni. Let's get the flamers on this guy. It's a little bit awkward to fire 4 weapon systems, I will admit.
Bruh.
Oh, I shouldn't have fired that PPC. That was really stupid. Oh, God. Unfortunately, my forward armor should still be pretty good. Yeah, forward armor is still good. Come on. Where's this guy at? Here, I'm going to have my allies. You guys finish off the Hunchback. I'm going after this guy over here. So up close, we need to there's no need to use the PPC up close. We can do plenty of damage with the other weapons, so that is not a big deal. Here we go. Big damage on the rear armor, but now he's facing forward, so I'm not able to do a whole lot. Bit of a battle we got here. Good, that guy's down. Here we go. Come on. Come on. This is the end! There's the PPC, the knockout punch. I like to finish people off with the PPC. I think it's kind of like fun and thematic feeling. It's like that big blast knockout punch on him. Here, I need to take this guy out. There we go. Let's do it, boys. Focus fire. We got an enemy dropship on the approach. Wasn't expecting that, but I suppose that is fine. Like, I don't really like this weapon setup, mainly because I tend to not like more than 3 weapon groups. But that's kind of like, I don't really have much of a choice here. I always feel a little awkward when I gotta wield 3 weapon groups, and that's part of the reason why I'm not. You may notice I'm not attacking as efficiently as I normally would, and that's because just because I tend to find 3 weapon groups to be a little bit awkward. Nevertheless, oh, we got another one here. It's another hunchback. Let's aim for the shoulder cannon. Oh, that was a PPC direct hit on the... Wow, that was... maybe we can overheat him. Trying to go for... Oh, looks like he's going to get my arm. That's funny. Look at that. Arm is down on the mech, but doesn't matter. It turns out there's nothing in the arm, apparently. I think I'm just going to go with the Flamer and the SRMs. I think that's perfectly good damage. Starting to get a little bit of a heat problem. That's the end of him. Wow. A little bit of a battle here. Little bit of a, yeah, I'm not like unhappy about it. I'll rumble. We'll fight it out. It's all good. Took a little bit, we got roughed up a little bit. I blame a lot of that on me. I'm just not familiar enough with 4 weapon groups. So like, I was dropping my shots on my flamers and I wasn't firing aggressively enough with my SRM, and yeah, that's just the problem. That's just a personal issue of me just not being familiar enough with 4 weapon groups. Welcome back to the system, Cashzilla, where we're going to take a look at our Thunderbolt and go in for a recustomization. So here are the stats. 416 armor. I believe that is like just completely maxed. It might not be, like you might be able to go a little higher, but it's really heavy armor. The 64 kilometers per hour, talked about that. You know, that's pretty normal. Here is the weapon loadout. We have a PPC in the right arm. As you can see, there is nothing in the left arm, so it's completely fine that it was destroyed. We've got a flamer in the right torso. We've got 3 medium lasers in the left torso, along with an SRM-6 launcher. We have 1 ton of SRM ammo in the center torso, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 heat sinks, which, even with all of that, we still were having a little bit of a heat, but still, that's a healthy quantity of heat sinks. Honestly, I think this is a perfectly good build for the Thunderbolt. Like, you know, I might be able to kind of tweak it around a little bit, but like, it's honestly pretty good in this state. If we strip the mech down, we can see that we have 1 large energy slot, a large missile slot, and then we do have 1 small and 3 medium energy slots, so you would not be able to turn this into a 4th medium laser if you wanted to. Alrighty, so I have made our redesign, and so what I've done is I have taken the Thunderbolt into almost more of a Thor kind of direction. Thor is a clan battle mech that shares some resemblance because of the kind of like the way the off-centered head and the shoulder cannon. Unfortunately, we can't see. The Thor uses a PPC, an LRM, and an AC-10, so it's kind of like I guess a bigger enforcer that has like a missile launcher. But I was inspired by the Thor for this design, where it would basically be a mech that, because it's not super fast. So nowadays, now that we're at 64 kilometers, I feel like we do need a bit of range, because you honestly can spend some time advancing towards an enemy. So I want the ability to basically begin pounding the enemy at range with the LRM-15 and the PPC. And the other thing was, like, up close, we weren't able to use the SRM, so like something had to go. Like in up close combat, we couldn't use the PPC, the laser, and the SRM. So it doesn't matter if the LRM-15 can't fire up close, because all of these weapons with the PPC, that's going to be enough for our heat sinks to handle. So here's what we did. PPC upgraded to the maximum T5 tier guard. We got an LRM-15 upgraded from the SRM-6. I decided to get 2 flamers and 2 small lasers. I put the flamers on the same side just so that they don't cover as much of the screen. Better to have just the left torso spraying than the left and the right. And then we've got the 2 small lasers just because they're more efficient. They're more heat efficient up close. And then we actually knocked down the quantity of heat sinks to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which I think will be good enough. We've got 1.5 tons of LRM ammo in the legs, and we actually boosted the armor up even farther to 432, and this is going to annoy me. Like, the legs need to have the same armor. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and take this into a battle. Alrighty, looks like we got another dropship exit out. So let's talk about the Thunderbolt. This mech is one of the unseen, meaning it's the appearance of the mech was in a legal dispute. If you're not familiar with where the term unseen came from, it came from this idea that because the mech's art could not be depicted, but they were still effectively a part of the story, you could say that they were allowed to be heard of, but not seen. Therefore, heard but unseen became kind of just like the nickname of these rather legendary mechs, and yes, the Thunderbolt can count itself as one of them. Okay, it looks like these objectives are going to be fairly clustered together, which suggests that we are going to... well, the first thing we gotta do is change this around. I gotta have this like this, like that. There we go. That's just right. Anyways, looks like this is probably going to be a faster mission just due to the way the objectives are clustered together. So hopefully I don't get too distracted and we can actually make it through the history of this mech. So in addition to being one of the unseen, this mech is very old, venerable. It went into production, I believe, in 2490, maybe 2491. Like, basically, like, this mech was way, way, way back in the day, and it's actually a first run for the mech company that designed it. This was the first mech that they built. So as Earthworks Incorporated, that's the name of their designer, as their first battle mech, it was considered, like, not just a really big... Wait, I thought there was... Wasn't there something here? Was there literally just a tower poking out of the ground and that was it? Anyways, so Earthworks Unlimited, it was their first mech that they had created, and so not only did the mech go very smoothly for being the first mech that the company created, it was also, oh, here we go, here's the target. It was also just an extremely successful mech by all standards. One of the things that's interesting about the Thunderbolt is that it was considered one of the largest mechs of its time. So today we have, you know, your light class, your medium class, your... Wow, I zapped that guy, just straight up bug zapped. Anyway, so this mech was basically kind of viewed as the assault mech of its time. Like, 65 tons was considered very heavy. Over time, larger battle mechs would be made and to make this mech a smaller mech. But back in the day, in 2490, this mech was considered like really, really big. Yeah, look at this thing. It's just... That's the objective? It's just this little, like, antenna sticking out of the ground. Like, what a pathetic objective. That's like... Anyway, so despite Earthwork Incorporated, their inexperience with battle mechs, they made this big smash hit. The Thunderbolt, it just took off. Everyone wanted it. They wanted to sell it to everybody. The battle mech would come to be primarily associated with House Steiner, with the Free Worlds League, and the Capellan Confederation they just adopted it as kind of like their heavy mech of choice. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm able to engage at like a farther distance on the approach. And they would just adopt the mech as like their primary heavy mech. And even as larger mechs would come out, it kind of didn't matter because the mech was very economical. So the Thunderbolt, which would eventually become nicknamed the T-Bolt, just kind of like just the urban, you know, like name, just kind of slang term for it. The T-Bolt would just be seen as just a really good everyday mech. One of the things it's known for is having as I said, profoundly good armor. But it's not just that it's really good, the armor is comparable to that of assault mechs, which is why the idea of it being like a primary planetary assault platform was not an unreasonable thing. It was extremely hard to kill, and it had like decent firepower for its size. The standard configuration, though, was just kind of viewed as not having enough heat sinks. Not the version we had. The version we had has quite a few heat sinks, but the standard Thunderbolt was, I believe it had, it would have an additional 5 heat sinks. It was just considered like a bit of a hot ride. Like the mech would get hot quickly, but overall, like it just didn't matter. Like it was just a very wildly successful mech. Everybody wanted it. Like the producer, Earthworks Incorporated, they wanted to sell it to everybody. So the Thunderbolt would just be a mech, and it was also a mech that it never really had a fall from grace. It would always be seen as a really good mech. It did start running into trouble later on, though, close to the basically during the time of the Word of Blake conflict. This is something that would occur like way deeper, like way after the clans and whatnot. And what would happen is another mech company known as Irian Battle Mechs Unlimited, they had an objective of basically making new versions of Star League battle mechs, because 2490 this is a Star League, Terran Hegemony Star League era mech, and so they wanted to make a new version of the Thunderbolt, but it wasn't going to be a Thunderbolt variant. It was just going to be a totally new mech known as the Tempest. You can even see in the name Thunderbolt, a Tempest, a storm. And so the Tempest they were lobbying very hard with the government to try and stop. Like, they actually wanted to halt productions, like get people to cancel their contracts and abandon the Thunderbolt in favor of the Tempest. And so what the Word of Blake would wind up doing is they're like, let's see. If you think the Tempest can outperform the Thunderbolt... Now look at this, another mech managed to sneak in here. Okay, that's fine. Anyways, yeah, so they were basically like, if you think that this is what I did, look at this. We get this amazing bombardment action right here on the approach. Very, very nice. Because like I said, we're not that fast, so I like to be able to actually engage the enemy before, because if all I had was the PPC, I wouldn't be dealing nearly as much damage. Like, we destroyed that guy before our medium lasers even would have been able to really contribute in any meaningful way. But so they had the two mechs fight each other, and whichever mech won, basically kind of like the enhanced Thunderbolt or the Tempest would win the big time contracts. The other one would have to back down. Although a pretty quick mission, I was kind of hoping for a little more intense combat. This was a Dropway 230 mission. I was hoping to fight a little more armor. Nevertheless, I think we stomped them very effectively, and I think we had enough situations where we were able to use our close range weapons, especially against those smaller mechs, and yet our long-range weapons came into very good effect against the enemy support mechs, mainly the Jaeger mechs and the riflemen. Anyways, to conclude the story, in the duel between the Tempest and the Thunderbolt would wind up coming out on top, defeating the Tempest in single combat, and that secured I would honestly say, just the flawless reputation. Maybe flawless is excessive, but Earthworks Incorporated's just incredible Thunderbolt has served with impressive honors from the very beginning of its creation, and it's just a mech that it's just been around, and that's why it being unseen was such a huge blow to BattleTech, because there was just no replacement for the Thunderbolt. Just very iconic looking mech with a great design. Love the little missile pod. And it's also just a really good mech. Like I said, it's good in MechWarrior 5, but it's really good in the BattleTech remake. It's a great large mech to kind of transition from light and medium into, because it's just so tough. It just gets the job done. And it's got a great blend of weapon hardpoints and heat sinks. Anyways, let me know what you thought of this Thunderbolt, and tell me what you would have done with the mech. Let me know down in the comments section. Anyways, like the video if it was entertaining. Subscribe for future MechWarrior 5 Heroes of the Innersphere rags to riches content. And of course, remember that you don't have to be good to get good.